Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is longevity lesson number 8 of 9 in a series, and this one is called The Science of Breath. Out of all of the lectures that we've had so far, the science of breath was one that I wanted to make sure we did, because breath work and how well you breathe is so valuable and so important to longevity. And so I think it's great for us to understand some of the techniques around it and also experience breath work for ourselves. As a disclaimer, again, this information is for informational purposes only. This is not to be construed as medical advice. Anything that you take or you learn from here, make sure that you're also discussing it with your doctor. As a reminder, I am a lead physician here at Love.Life. I am also a board-certified family physician. I have training in functional and integrative medicine, and I am also a breast cancer survivor. I specialize in hormones because I feel that hormones are such an important part of every part of our lives, including all of the transitional changes that both men and women face. My connection to breathwork really started with performance breathing through XBT. It also started with training through Shakti school and also some Ayurvedic work. And then I did a breathwork ceremony certification through 5 Sense Collective. But even before that, the breath is so incredibly valuable because as I was healing from my own breast cancer journey, it was an important part for me to help breathe through pain that I experienced after my double mastectomy. So the science of breath. This is the number of breaths that we take every single day on average. So here you're seeing 22,000 breaths per day. And it's a very large number that most people don't think about, but every single time that we breathe, it's so important to understand how and why breath work and breathing can be valuable. We know that breathing is a vital sign. So when we think about the top vital signs that help support human life, it's right up here with heart rate, which is your pulse, and then we also have your blood pressure, body temperature. I like to call pain as also being a vital sign. For women who menstruate, menstrual cycle regulation and the rhythm there is also a vital sign. And then you also see respirations, which is your breathing rate. That is a vital sign as well. So here's a diagram that is showing us the mechanics of what happens when we breathe. As you breathe in, your rib cage is expanding. And then you can see that there are changes that are happening in the lungs and also the diaphragm muscle. As you inhale, the diaphragm actually continues to move down. And then as you breathe out, the rib cage gets smaller. And then we are also seeing that the diaphragm relaxes and it moves upwards. And so this is a basic diagram showing us the mechanics of what happens each time we breathe out of those 22,000 breaths per day. It's also important for us to acknowledge that there are differences in nose breathing and mouth breathing. We recently had Dr. Bruce in the house, and he wrote a book called Sleep, Drink, Breathe. And one thing that he mentioned during the conversation that I had is that the nose was meant for breathing and the mouth is meant for eating. And when I think about nose breathing, there are so many advantages to breathing through the nose that we need to talk about. We know that it filters and it also humidifies the air. We know that breathing through the nose also increases nitric oxide production and supports better oxygenation. We're also able to get deeper breaths all the way to the diaphragm. We also know that it helps to support sleep, and as we continue to nose breathe, that is also something that also helps reduce snoring. Whereas on the other side of things, when we think about mouth breathing, this is straight air, it bypasses the filtration, it does allow more pollutants and toxins and things that are unwanted into the lungs. It can also cause us to have a dry mouth, it can affect the oral cavity when we mouth breathe, and it also leads to this very shallow breathing that can also decrease our oxygen efficiency. Many of us are shallow breathers without even realizing it. I think that in James Nestor's book, Breath, he even mentioned that upwards of maybe 30% or so are actually shallow breathers or even mouth breathers. So this is something that we have to acknowledge, that shallow breathing is something that we want to limit as much as possible. So what exactly is shallow breathing? Shallow breathing occurs when you take very short shallow breaths, and you are typically only using the upper chest muscles. We're not fully engaging in the diaphragm, and we're not creating that increased oxygenation capacity that we really truly want. And instead of filling up your lungs fully, the shallow breathing is very quick. It's very superficial. It doesn't give us this complete oxygen exchange that we're typically looking for with deeper breaths. And it also reduces your body's ability to take in that oxygen efficiently. So why does this matter? It's important to know that if we continue to breathe shallow and we're not engaging in the full muscles, there are a few different things that we can also experience from a medical perspective. For example, shallow breathing, it can cause fatigue. It can cause muscle tension. It can affect your immune system. It's also been linked to stress and anxiety. We also know that it can cause brain fog and mental clarity. And then there are some long-term health issues that are important for us to acknowledge. Things like pain, things like respiratory disorders, and even cardiovascular conditions like increased blood pressure as well. So in a nutshell, this shallow breathing that should be on all of our radars is really about reduced oxygen intake. And this means that we're not engaging all of our muscles of respiration, including the diaphragm, to truly get the benefits that we really want. So it's something that we should be aware of. Now we're going to switch gears and we're going to talk about breath work. First, it was about breathing and those 22,000 breaths, and now we're talking about breath work. This is a range of controlled breathing techniques that we use to really support our physical and mental well-being. That's what breath work is. And it's really been used for centuries in so many cultures like in India, in China, Native American traditions, in Japan. We know that these breathwork practices are really meant to support healing. They're meant to support stress relief and also create mental clarity for us as well. There is so much power in experiencing breathwork and doing deliberate breathwork, and I wanted to make sure that we acknowledge and mention that it has been around forever. In yoga and Ayurveda, you see that the origin here is over 5,000 years ago in India. And there are certain practices in yogic breathwork that are really dedicated to the controlled movements that are dedicated to that, along with the energy flow that goes along with it. So we know that there are certain practices where they find this to be truly beneficial. Qigong is another one. Our traditional Chinese medicine practitioner at Love.Life, she does make recommendations of different kinds, including Qigong, to help support this. You can see this is also multiple thousands of years old, these techniques. And in Qigong, they're combining breathwork techniques with movement and also meditation to really support and cultivate your vital energy force, which is your qi. My parents are from the Philippines, and so I thought I would also acknowledge and mention that even in Filipino culture, there is even this deliberate breathing that's called sarayang paghinga. And I thought that was really interesting too, that when I was chatting with my mom about it, she mentioned that there is deliberate breathwork practice, again, that is really meant to support and foster this stress relief, anxiety release, support your nervous system, and create that sense of calm and peace. And in the US, we know that breathwork has gained a lot of popularity because it is a very powerful tool. And there are lots of different types of breathing techniques that are out there to support breath work. And they're used, again, to really support this relaxation, this emotional support, and even just general well-being. And so here are some examples, some quick examples and tips of how we can support incorporating breath work into your everyday life. So some people will choose to start the day with deep breathing. Maybe this is 5 to 10 minutes. Maybe this is in a calm setting. Maybe this is in your car before you're getting to work, just taking a pause to focus on breathing. That can also help calm down your nervous system. There are also different techniques, a couple of which we'll get into today, and of course some that we're going to talk about with Gwen as well. So things like box breathing or just taking breathing breaks. Reminding yourself to just take a beat in the middle of the day can also be very helpful in terms of relaxing your body as well. And I really like this part here about winding down at night. When we wind down at night, our goal is really to prepare our body for rest, for restoration, for healing, for recovery, to help support that. So ideally, we want to continue to calm down our nervous system. And as we can engage in these breathwork techniques, that's exactly what we're doing. We're also trying to support calming down our bodies. There are many, many, many different techniques out there. And here's an example of a few. We mentioned box breathing, 4-7-8 breathing. Of course, there are different methods here like Wim Hof or even the holotropic breath work, and even alternate nostril breathing. That one has also been used for thousands of years, even in Ayurveda as well. And with box breathing, this is just one simple example because it is very useful no matter where you are or what you're doing to engage in this, where you inhale for 4 seconds and then you hold and you exhale for 4 seconds and then you hold again for another 4 seconds. And the goal of box breathing is really to support reducing anxiety, helping to support your nervous system, and helping to maintain that sense of calm and focus. So this is something that can be practiced at any time. And then we also see this 4-7-8 breath where you are literally inhaling through the nose. Remember, the oxygen carrying capacity that we get there, the filtration, the nitric oxide production. Then you are holding your breath for 7 seconds. And we are then lengthening the exhale for double the amount of time that we've inhaled. The purpose of that is to really calm down your body's nervous system, because as we exhale through the nose, we are also getting this calm down response to support your parasympathetic nervous system. And yet this is just another technique that can also be done anywhere, anytime to help calm down your nervous system, but one that's also fun to do and nice to do even before you go to sleep. So I love this picture because it just reminds me of how important breathwork can be when you combine it with effects like being outdoors, in fresh air, feeling the oxygen carrying capacity of what's going on around you, being grounded to the earth. And so I wanted to just mention here that you can engage in breathwork anywhere, but it is also enhanced when you're in these experiences that are in nature. And so that's one benefit to really enhance that. So what happens in your body when we engage in breathwork? We reduce stress. We improve our oxygenation. Our heart rate is regulated. When we engage in breathwork, our blood pressure is also reduced. It can help to support more mental clarity and focus. It helps to regulate our nervous system so that we can engage the parasympathetic nervous system to feel safe and calm and even at peace. And I like the comment here about how it releases emotional blocks. I'll tell you a funny story about that. It also helps to improve sleep quality, and it helps our body detoxify. So there are so many reasons why we want to engage in these different breathwork techniques that are beneficial to us. As I mentioned, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system to really help your body shift from this fight or flight, super stressed out state to a more resilient, relaxed, and calm state. It also helps to support cortisol levels, because when our body is on an overdrive, our cortisol hormone levels have a tendency to rise. And for some people, this is happening so frequently every day. And our goal with breathwork is to calm down our body's response, including our adrenal glands, which produce the cortisol hormone. We also know that it helps to support emotional resilience so that we can manage our stress better. We can also help to support calming down from some of these emotional triggers that happen throughout the day. And overall, you can see that blood pressure and heart rate, when we go back to the original slides about your vital signs, this is an important one for some people who are really focusing on trying to calm down their bodies and also calm down some elevations in their blood pressure as well. And ways that it supports our nervous system, it releases tension, it helps to support that emotional regulation that we're looking for. It helps to improve oxygen delivery to our bodies, especially when we're focusing on that nasal breathing. And then I love what's mentioned here about the nervous system once again. Ideally, the breath work is meant to create balance to support our nervous system, which for many people is on a sympathetic overdrive. So breath work, can it help with health conditions? The answer is yes. This is just a short list. I guess I'd say it's a long list, but it's a list nonetheless of conditions where you can see breathwork can be very beneficial. Think about stress and anxiety that affects so many of us. Think about our mental health state and how it can support migraines and tension headaches and depression and chronic fatigue and sleep. And then we're looking at respiratory conditions. We can even see that breathwork can be supportive for gut issues like irritable bowel syndrome. Cardiovascular brings us back to the heart rate and blood pressure, and even things like PTSD and trauma, fatigue and burnout. Post-surgery recovery is another one. This is something that was mentioned on the earlier slide, and I bring it up because breath work can also help us release trapped emotions. And this is something that I've experienced personally when it comes to breath work. So I'll tell you a little story. I was at an event here at Love.Life, and it was an event that had about 30 women or so. And in that breathwork ceremony, our lovely guide, Gwen, our transformational breath coach, kind of walked us through a 20-minute experience where we were engaging in breathwork the entire time. And as we were doing that, I had a huge emotional release that I haven't experienced in years. And after the breathwork, which was roughly about 20 minutes, I was bawling. I was like crying tears, ugly tears, all over my whole face. And it wasn't even like it was anything that was controllable, because I was just bawling from that experience. And so I think the hard thing about it was I was holding so much in. And so as I held so much in and I needed a way to help release that, this was a perfect opportunity for me. I felt safe amongst a group of women. I also felt really comfortable with a trusted guide who was guiding me through the experience. And I really felt that this was a time for me to just let go and release. And out came that emotional outburst of a bunch of tears. And it felt incredible. It felt really good to be able to release that, because sometimes you don't even know what you need. And you never know where the breathwork experience is going to take you. And for me, it took me to a place of being able to release some of those trapped emotions. And there's a lovely Gwen. And this was literally towards the end of the ceremony. I just shot a quick photo because I just wanted to hold on to that moment. And here are some examples of some breathwork apps. I put these here just as resources for anyone who is interested in getting started, and maybe you're not sure where to start or how to start. All of these companies offer really nice programs with even some free trials and things to really support that. I like the Calm and Headspace. Open has a few really great ones as well, and same with breathwork. So there's always something for everybody, and there's an opportunity for you to explore these. Some book recommendations. All three of these I've loved because I think early on, when I wanted to understand the physiology of breath and how powerful it could be and how much it could impact me, I liked Patrick McKeown's book. It was a little bit more science heavy. I loved the experimentation that James Nestor had done. He talked about an experience where he spent 10 days of nasal breathing only, and then there was another 10 days of mouth breathing only. And you can imagine what somebody's body is like during the nasal breathing time versus what happened during the mouth breathing time. So he really dives into the science, and he dives into that personal experimentation as well. And then this book here, Mastering Breathwork with Dan Brule, is yet another one who is, from a scientific perspective, it'll cause you to pause and think twice. And he also offers some really expert guidance and tips to support that as well. So I've talked a lot about breathwork in terms of calming down your nervous system. And here at Love.Life, I put this list here because you can utilize breathwork in every single one of these opportunities that we have. For example, our somatic therapist uses mind-body medicine, and she may also use specific techniques that are dedicated towards breathwork and give people tools to help support themselves even outside of those consults. In our community settings, we even offer breathwork as part of some of the classes here at Love.Life, so that's also important for us to engage as well. It's not just about high-intensity interval training or strength training or even yoga and flexibility. Maybe there's some integration there of breathwork that can be valuable. We also have a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner and even our Reiki energy healer. What's valuable there is these experts will also utilize breathwork as a tool in their expert consultations and in their practices. So you can see that there's many opportunities for people to engage in breathwork. Now, out of all the longevity lessons, we are now down to the April 1st, very last longevity learning, gut health, metabolism, and the microbiome. I'm very excited about this one. I'm also bringing in another special guest, Dr. Tara Zinnemann, to join us for this. And that will be happening next Tuesday, April 1st at Love.Life. Final thoughts. I've put my email address here front and center because I would love to hear from all of you. If you have feedback, if you have insights, if you've learned something interesting throughout any of the longevity learnings throughout the series, feel free to send me a message. And this is my email address for you to do so. Here we have Dr. Tara Zinnemann and myself. Again, this is Tuesday. This was a reschedule. It is the very last one. We're talking about gut health and your metabolism. And I'm excited because Dr. Tara is going to talk about the gut-brain connection. So from a neuroscientist perspective, we're going to unpack all of that. This is my Instagram, and also here is the official Love.Life to learn more. We have so many other events along the way, and we can't wait to see you at them.